You're on
And
the podcast with Dino and Ashley.
We're so much chipper.
Oh, way more
It's
chipper.
not 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, and I got some sleep. So
That is nice.
it's always a nice one, sleep.
Yes.
Who would have thought that sleep actually helps you?
It really does. It really does. This room got put back together. As you can see, the photo wall is a little jank right now.
Is it?
The tile got done in here, and the guy took all the photos off the wall. And instead of me being intentional about putting them back up, I was like, there's a nail, just put them back up. But I can't fit like 6 of the photos, so I clearly didn't put it back up in the right spot. You can see it. There's supposed to be like a rhyme and reason between like photos.
A rhyme and a reason?
And a reason. Look at, there's like a 1/4 of an inch, 6 inches.
So this is the thing. These are things that just drive you insane.
It is, but not enough, obviously, for me to change it.
No.
It'll probably stay like that for the next year.
I feel like right now, this season of our life, there's a million things like this that just are driving me nuts. And I have to be like, no, just
Not
those
today.
things don't exist right now. We're just moving forward.
We have other things on the top of the list.
How was the 5:30 wake up for the gym this morning? First day back
It
for
was
you.
good. I was actually already kind of awake. I was tossing and turning, and that was good.
Yeah.
This is the first time we went back to the gym in over a month.
Yeah, I haven't changed out of my gym gear yet. You're nice.
You didn't get the shower memo.
Yeah.
Shower before the podcast memo.
Out of happily jumped in the showers.
Oh, so we had a really good week this week. We opened up the Fox Mercantile earlier this week, and we just had to set a date in our minds and just like work towards that. And we were able to get it done. And it was such a cool thing. On Sunday, we had such a cool moment too with what happened with our friend John that we met.
It's a fun story.
It is a
Tell
fun
this whole
story.
real
It
quick.
is. So we went to church, and Brooke was in town, so she was over at the Mercantile just, doing stuff in the back. Our landscapers were finishing up all the stuff they had to do. And during church, I have trash anxiety all the time because we always have so much trash at the Mercantile, but not enough bins, not enough like spots to put them. The county won't let us have a dumpster. We can only have trash bins, but we have like cardboard and stuff, and it has to go in bags. And trying to fit it's like trying to fit an elephant into like a tube, like a tiny tube. Like, how do you jam it all in there? So the trash guys don't love us. We always are trying to like give them coffee and here, we'll help you put the trash in. And they're like, no. So I had trash anxiety. I was like, we have so much trash out there still. We took down the fence, and they're picking up all the FEMA crews are going around picking up all the island trash right now. And they've already done like 2 passes on our street. They're not coming back. So during church,
I had all the fence.
The fence.
You briefly said, oh, there was the fence, but let's make sure we're
all the fence that fell over.
Every panel of all of the side of our building is all stacked up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a 5-foot tall pile of wood.
And our like ice maker was out there. So it was bigger stuff than the trash people would even have taken. So I texted Brooke and I was like, we got to get somebody to take the trash. What are we going to do? Like, should be listening to Brian speak, but all I can think about is this trash. And so I texted a trash guy that's helped us out before, but he's not cheap. It's like $700 for him to pick up a load. But I thought, okay, we have to get trash out of here. We need it before we open. And then Jackie and Jason, our landscapers, also so sweet, and they were going to take a load as well. So we pull up to the Mercantile, and we see on our street a double-decker or double-long dump truck. These are the ones that are going around and picking up all of the debris after the hurricanes. And they have this giant black claw that comes out, and it's so cool. So they're picking up the trash. So we get there, and we're all like, oh my gosh, we're so excited. We just saved $700. And they're like, they just happen to be here. So I go start talking to Jackie and Jason and Brooke, and Jackie was like, we met this guy last night. His name's John, and he was going around the streets doing stuff. And we said, hey, is there any way you could come back and pick up this trash? We need the help because we can't get our truck right now to release the rocks in it. The rocks are too heavy in the back of our truck, so we can't even empty the rocks we have to put on this property. We have to do it by hand. And
So we asked him, we needed the trash taken care of, and can you help us get the rock out of the back of the dump trailer that was not capable of
Well, they didn't even ask him, but he just offered to do it.
Yeah.
The rock needed to get dumped so that they could take our trash, and so they didn't didn't have to unload it with their hands. Like it's just a lot of work. And he's like, I got you. I'll just come back in the morning and I'll use my truck and I'll get the rocks out of the back of your truck for you. And so we're like, great. She was like, great. So he was there doing that for them and then getting our trash, which was just such a cool thing. And that alone, I would have just been like, well, day made. Like, that was amazing. We just saved a bunch of money. Yep. Awesome. And we're hanging out there for a sec and we're like, John, we have this trash in the front of our property that was from Helene, like all the neighbors, buoys and I don't even know what that stuff was.
It was all the main streets trash that just like...
It flowed from people's yards, so it all kind of was in a pile there and nobody has picked it up yet. And he was like, oh yeah, I'll get that for you. Well, it just so happened to be by our giant tree that fell over on the property. So we're watching him pick up the trash and he's so like, you could tell I don't know if he was showing off or just like, he just does that.
He liked a challenge.
He did.
I think that he was just like, oh, this seems like a fun, hard thing to do.
Yeah. He was like, he had a mattress in the back of his truck that he would use to like sweep the ground and like make it look all nice. And then he put the mattress back. So we're like, John, what about this tree? We're like kind of pointing to the tree that's sticking out of the ground.
And the tree's really problematic because it's not just the tree. It's like a 6-foot tree. And we tried to chainsaw this thing down and we didn't have a big enough chainsaw because the diameter of this thing's so big. And even if we had a tree guy come out and he gave us a very expensive quote just to remove the tree portion, leaving the stump. But then we have to get a stump grinder out there. And the way that it was set up is that the roots all got ripped out. So it wasn't a scenario where like even a stump grinder was going to solve the problem.
And we have those giant boulders, like rocks in front of like on the street side. Yeah. So a tractor couldn't even access it. So it was like, really just like not a good situation.
It was next to a ditch, which is super dangerous. So we're kind of hosed on this. And I had talked with Jackie and Jason. I'm like, what if we just put some dirt kind of around it and create a mound? Like that was
Let's just cover the tree with dirt. This never was here.
No, it was going to be really ugly. It was never going to be a good scenario.
No, we were just like, at this point, we were like, well, this tree's staying. And you can't find tree people right now because everybody is busy. So just like a lot of variables that we were like, well, we're just going to have this tree here. But we asked John and John was like, yeah. And so he starts picking at it with his tractor and it took him about an hour. He even got out of after he kind of moved the stump or the tree out of the way, he knew that he couldn't pick it up with his arm anymore on the tractor. So he got a saw and sawed it. Like that's not he doesn't need to do that. Like that's not part of his job.
Way out of his way. To just be a good human being.
Yeah. So
for free. Jackie and Jason tried giving him
money,
$100 and he was like, no, get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Yeah.
So he just wanted to be a good person and be like, hey, you guys had a rough time. I'm going to just be here to be a nice human being.
Yeah. So he was like, we asked him or Jason did, how much would this have cost, for your company to do something like this? And he was like, it would have been 10 grand. And he just was so happy to do it. So after he was done, he got the tree out after a little bit of time. And he comes over and he apologizes to us for it taking so long. And I'm like, what are you saying?
He's just a good he's a good old boy from like West Virginia.
Yeah.
Like the guy just retired his flip phone this year. He just got a smartphone.
Yeah.
Guy's 42 years old.
Yeah.
And he's just like a good old boy.
Sweet.
Like,
so sweet. Yeah. So we tried to pay him again. He was like, no. So I was like, Jackie, ask him if he has a Venmo. See if you can like get his Venmo from him, because I was sharing the story, just how cool it was that all this had happened. I was sharing it on Instagram and so many people were like, does he have a fund? Does he have like a Venmo? Get his Venmo. And I thought, okay, maybe I'll just like see if he has one. And we asked him and he did not. He didn't even know what Venmo was. And he was fine, though, with us setting it up. So Jackie's daughter, Kendra, set up Venmo on his phone. I immediately shared it on Instagram. And it was just so awesome to see him and the humility and like the love and joy.
Well, it was really funny, though, because he would come in and then he'd leave for a while. And then he'd come back and talk and hang out for a minute.
My phone just keeps dinging. How do I wait, what is happening? Who are all these people?
How do I say thank you?
Yeah, all he wanted to do was say thank you. It was so sweet. So I did save the story on my Instagram. If you missed it, you should definitely go watch it. It's so cool. But last I heard, he was over $10,000, which was so cool because that's what it would have cost.
Yep.
And he wouldn't have made 10 grand off of that at all. You know, he is just like, when it was like at $1,000, his mind was
I
blown.
know. He was like, what is happening?
Yeah, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, how do I say thank you?
So, but it's stories like this that have been consistent for the last few months or last month or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just been very cool things to be involved with.
Yeah. I think that's just the stance. And that's the reason why I shared the story, is the stance that I just feel like we're in right now. The blur that we were in the first 8 years, the blessing that I felt like we were in, and now this like battlefield. And it's so cool to be in the battlefield because we're not in it alone. And God's just so clearly shown up in such a unique way than I've ever experienced.
Yep.
And do you feel like that too?
Absolutely.
Like
Absolutely.
just like such a visual way through people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a fun story that I got to experience this week too with the whole church situation, the church building. I'll give a very quick version of it, but the gist of it is that we are no longer able to stay at our current building at the church. And I'm part of the leadership team where I just help. I don't do any pastoral type things. I'm purely just administrative and assisting in like business affairs and financing and things like that. So I just kind of help oversee that kind of stuff. And this week we were struggling because we were like, where are we going to go? What are we going to be going? Where can we move to? And we have to be out by the end of December, basically. The quick version of the story is that somebody else, an older man who owns 10 acres, is looking to sell his property, and we're not eligible for this property. And ultimately, this guy has been praying for people like us to come. While we've been praying for a cool spot for our church to go to, he's been praying for us that young people like us would come and be able to be someone that he kind of hands the baton off to.
Yeah.
It was just really cool to watch even that scenario and just be part of it. I think it's been a very cool experience lately in that you and I have been in the middle of it. That's hard, but at the same time, that's where God uses you and shows up and is doing a whole bunch of cool stuff. And you just to be able to be part of it all, be part of it at the Mercantile and be there when people are coming up and showing up like John and helping us when we're in a struggling kind of scenario there, and Jackie and Jason, and watching them just come and love on us and overflow, like see the overflow of the love of God from them.
I know. And you don't get that when everything is going your way. You know, you don't get that when you are not relying on God.
Yep.
And when finances are perfect and everything is like perfection, which that's not real anyways. Like nobody's life is like that. You have a choice. Am I going to look to the world like we were talking about before, or am I going to look up? And I'm not saying that we did this perfectly either. We fully admitted that we definitely struggled through all of it. You know, like it wasn't like it was super easy to just be like, this is amazing and I'm waiting for you, Lord. You know, it's like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Lord, like help us, you know, like just on your knees. And I think he wants that. He wants us to be on our knees and just falling for him, you know, because like that is where we see him the most, is when we're on our knees.
It's true.
We get to experience him in such a cool way. So while I would never wish for the like awful things that happen in the world, I know that he can use his people for good. He's used us, and he's used so many other people that we've encountered and interacted with.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's been a number of podcasts now where you and I consistently say we have been living this message of what Satan meant for evil, or what the world meant for evil, or for what was meant for evil in general, God used for good. And you and I got to be in the midst of that good. And yeah, it sucks to be surrounded by awful things, a hurricane and recovery and all this stuff. But it's in the awful stuff that goes on where God is just consistently showing up for you and I. It's been really, really cool to be part of it and just be able to watch it.
Yeah.
Watch people like John get affected by it.
Even thinking about, you know, this last year with the kids, and I feel like we are kind of repeating the same stuff, but it really is something that is just so, we keep talking about it in our private time, like in the bathroom while we're getting ready. Like we're so pumped up on it. We basically are like giving each other like sermons or podcasts while we're talking, because we're so amped on seeing this seeing God move this way that it's like, we have to share this. Do not miss out on this.
Yeah.
Like, listen, if we need to do 10 podcasts on the same thing, but just tell the story in a different way, we'll keep going, because this is where life is. This is where the fullness is and the richness is. Like, forget the tangible things, the finances and the comfortableness. That's not what it's about at all. Being uncomfortable, stripped away of everything. Again, back to the trailer time. Stripped away of everything that we thought we knew and that we thought we needed. God's just like, but you don't. And look what I can do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been really interesting to be able to ride this whole thing. Even down to like some of the cool things. The other night, you and I were going off on the depth of friendship that we've gotten out of this because we've been alongside very good friends, Eric and Susan. Number one, they've been very good friends to us, and it's been a blessing to have just another good marriage, a good friendship next to us, both a husband and for me and a wife for you. And honestly, you and I were just sitting and talking, even, I don't know, whenever that was, after hanging out with Eric and Susan, about how going through a hard scenario like this alongside them as well helped build our bond together, helped strengthen us. So there's so much cool stuff even in that I feel like we could do. We could almost do a whole podcast just on the blessings of having a good friend alongside you when you're going through hardships.
Yeah.
Because the strengthening you get both in the bond of the relationship together, but also how that person will help you, hopefully push you towards the Lord. Like, that's the biggest thing, is that you want friendships that are going to be helping you push towards the Lord. And man, did we ever have that with Eric and Susan, because they were constantly encouraging us when we were discouraged. And Ash said it earlier just a second ago too, of, we haven't been saints through all this. Well, no, furthest thing from it is right now we're amped up because we're regurgitating all the good things and we're remembering all of the awesome stuff that we've had.
They're listening to the podcast. They know they heard us in our sadness.
Yeah, but we've been going through all this hard stuff. I feel like for me, during the day, I get down. I forget some of this stuff. I actually re-listen to the podcast after the fact most of the time to try and learn from the little things that we do. Oh, I should say this better and say that better. But most of the time,
God's using it and he's like,
I forgot that already.
Yeah, I know.
I already forgot that I should be
beautiful thing is that God is just using us to be a vessel. Like, he doesn't need us to do this podcast, he's allowing us to do it and he's using us, but he's also using us again to give us the message that he wants to give us, which is great.
It's a good remembrance as last week for you and I to always be looking back on the things that we're doing and being thankful and having this heart of gratitude for even the hard things, the good things, the bad things, all of it.
Yeah. And I think with the friend thing, we kind of talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but that's something that we prayed for so many years. And I just want to encourage you too, that pray like for all this stuff. But if you're craving that mentor, that friend that you can feel safe with, that you can open up to, especially a godly friendship, like the Lord wants that. He wants us to gather together. We're stronger in unity together, and we have wanted that so badly. And it does take trust on your part to be able to open up to people. Just ask God for him to provide those people to you, because he's completely answered our prayers. And it may not be in the timing that you're thinking. It may be, immediately that you meet somebody. It may be years. It was years for us.
Yeah.
And I could never ask for better friends than them. I'm so thankful.
Yeah. There's also been phases where you and I have just needed to be a good friend for somebody else, where we're not gaining necessarily anything from it. It's us just giving in, pouring into some other people. And I feel like just as much, I want to make sure that if we're talking about friendship and the importance of it, it's not always
selfish.
What you think it's going to be.
Totally. Well, that's what I said last week on the last podcast, going to that conference, me going into it wanting something for myself and wanting to be filled up in a certain way. And just God had different plans. And it's just another reminder that he's in control and he knows me better than I know myself. And he knows what I need more than what I think I need. And to just have an open hand with everything. And instead to be like, okay, Lord, what are we going to do this weekend? Are you using me? Are you filling me? Whatever it is, like, I am available. Or you go in like I did and then be disappointed and then have to make a shift in between and be like, okay, this is not what I thought was happening. But we're changing. We're pivoting right now. Yeah, but I think, even the summer too, or the summer, I don't even know the time right now. Is it winter?
I don't have a clue. I feel like fall just disappeared.
Yeah, we just had Halloween.
Yeah.
We, with the kids and stuff, just being connected with them so much through all of these trials too. Again, there's just so much value in that. So what I want to talk about really quick is like, how can people kind of take what we're saying right now in the everyday and in the normal, if they're not going through a hurricane and they're like, I want that. I want to experience that. Like finding joy within the trials. How can I do that?
This is such a toughie because basically you have to take yourself out of your own comfort zone. And you and I were forced out of a comfort zone for a long period of time. And man, was there ever blessings out of that. But a lot of people, I mean, myself included, I'm not one to be like, oh, I'm really comfortable right now. I'm going to go make myself really uncomfortable. That's a really hard thing to go do. Most of the time you probably end up having to pray, God, please put me in an uncomfortable position or in a scenario that allows me to grow. And that when you ask for growth, you ask for certain attributes, you're going to get scenarios that give you opportunities to grow in those areas. And this is actually one of the things I've been working with the boys on too, because they're reading their Bibles and they're praying and asking God for certain things. But they're like, oh, Dad, I'm struggling in this or I'm struggling in that area. Okay, well, how are you taking action based on the things that you're learning? It's a matter of flexing what you know is right. In the same way, you're going to ask for growth. You're going to ask for more of something from the Lord. Be looking out for the opportunities to actually flex and have action on those things. And yeah, comfort zone is probably the biggest one of them. Is if you find yourself outside your comfort zone, look for the opportunities and what God's trying to do in that scenario so that you can get growth out of it.
Yeah. I always think of the song, The Refiner. You refine me. I want to be consumed. I want to be tried like the fire.
Yeah.
And it's like,
everybody says that. Oh, nice.
Really though? Do you?
Yeah, be careful.
Do you really?
Yeah, because as soon as you get it put in that position, that is real.
I really do.
Yeah. I don't when I'm in it, I tell you that much. I always shirk away from it. I'm always hiding and trying to, recoil from the pain.
Dodging.
Yeah, dodging, bobbing and weaving, baby.
Trust me, I know. But when oh man, like I said, after this month, just to see when God is so in something, I want to be a part of that.
I know.
And then my brain goes to, okay, if I'm saying that, do I really, really mean that?
I know.
Like all the things, think about all the awful things. And I won't say all the things that go through my mind, but you can imagine the things that you could kind of go through like, okay, do you really mean that if this happened?
I know.
If this happened, or if this happened, or if this happened. Now, I obviously don't know exactly how I would react.
I know how I do. I know that I am not the person that I'm saying that I want to be. I am not. It is my natural inclination to recoil from these types of scenarios, only when I'm forced into it.
Yeah.
And God has consistently forced me into hard things. It's like, yeah, nope. There's a hand right behind me.
I know.
Consistently.
I know.
The hard things that are going on in our life. And I say hard things, and everything's obviously always relative. Yeah, relative. Other people are having to deal with like really, really hard issues like kids dying and things like that. But even the hard things that are in front of me, I'm constantly recoiling and pulling away from them. And then God forces me into them.
Yeah.
And it's just, I have prayed. I'm asking God, oh, will you give me wisdom? Will you give me discernment? Will you give me strength? Will you give me more capacity? Well, the only way you get those things is going head first into these types of hard scenarios.
Yeah. And how God can use you. I think that's one of the biggest things that I don't really realize a lot of the times. I don't think either you and I realize that, how much God is using us. When we go in open-handed, not only is he changing us, and then we get to see all the people around us that he's like using, and it's so cool. And we're like, whoa, we get to be a part of this. And then we get to see the flip side a lot of times because of social media and Instagram and people having access to, write us things. You were using us for somebody else, And to see the stuff that he's been using us for, it's so humbling. Like, I've had emails from people. I mean, you just said about like a kid dying, and about a mom who wrote me this letter, and she's thanking me for sharing our story and what we were going through with the hurricane, because it has brought her joy, kind of forced her to look up towards the Lord with
just
her
a shift in perspective.
Yeah, with her son. You're writing me right now when, and it's not a me thing. That is the Lord using us. He's using all of us, if we allow him to in that way, to affect somebody who's going through like a life or death situation right now. And that person is like, thank you, I'm looking up towards the Lord. If nothing else causes you to have obedience to God, then to know that like your obedience can overflow and affect somebody else's obedience, that should be enough for us.
Yeah, if you have this perspective of, well, I'm not worthy, who am I to go and help? Amen. I completely agree. Who the heck am I? And I am unworthy of contributing at all to any of this. But God still decides he's going to use you and I.
I know, he uses the lowly of people, the most like, we are not pastors and like evangelists. We're just good at sitting down and talking to each other and telling our story. But all of us have that same, he can use all of us, and it doesn't matter what your past looks like. It doesn't matter what you just did yesterday. It doesn't matter like if we're sitting there and we're like, we can't do this anymore, Lord. Like we're done. We're gonna sell everything and we're too tired. And he's like, not yet. I'm not done with you yet. I still have plans for you. Let me help you up. Let me pick you up and come beside you. Let me take your burden.
Yeah.
Take my yoke. It's easy and light. Let me come alongside of you. And man, does he do that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely been some really cool increases that I feel like God's given you and I, just in terms of capacity, like to be able to run at a marathon pace like this for so long. It's just been, I'm thankful. Yeah. Very thankful for all of this. And I know that it seems so weird. And even like coming out of my mouth, I'm like, really? You're thankful for what's going on?
Look outside. Look at our pool and our fence down and the tree. And,
Even that, you say that. And my immediate perspective that God's given me is one of like, you have a home right now. But the perspective like that God's given you and I through all of this is one of just gratitude.
Yeah.
The bad things we're thankful for. The things we were spared of, we're grateful for. The amazing opportunities to be part of what God's doing in the area and the community, watching him heal relationships between us and our neighbors and the people that have hated us or disliked us or whatever it's been. It's been very cool to just be part of it. So my big encouragement to everyone is look for the opportunities. Number one, first and foremost, ask God. Ask God, beg on your knees that you can be used as a tool for something that he's got in front of you. Ask for the attributes that you're actually looking for growth in, patience, long suffering. When God starts putting these types of opportunities in front of your face forcibly, because that's how it works most of the time, then look for those opportunities. Don't squander an opportunity to be like serving to someone else. If you're asking for more capacity in serving other people, and then God puts an opportunity right in front of your face to go and serve someone, then lean into it as hard as you can, because that's where the actual growth is submitting your free will before God when he gives you an opportunity to have growth.
Yeah. And it's not about perfection either. No. It's not, he doesn't want us to be perfect. He wants us on our knees. Yeah. He just wants our hearts to long for him and to seek after him. And he'll do it with us. It's so clearly seen that he has done everything with us. Yeah. When I was weak, he was strong.
Even talking about the perfection aspect of things, in no way was I specifically perfect and through any of this. Neither one of us.
No.
I mean, like, I was ugly and mean, and I'd yell at you or the kids, or have a bad attitude about something. I'd wake up just exhausted and cranky, or whatever it was.
Yeah, same.
But God still was gracious through all that.
I know. See, you're so right. Seeing God's grace, that's what it was. Even still, you still love me, and you still want to use me.
As ugly as I am.
Yes, that's what I was saying. It was so humbling just to be like, you really like me? Yeah. Like, I'm going to cry. It's just so sweet, and he just loves us so much, and he wants to use us for his good and for his glory, and we get to be a part of it, and it's exciting. And that's what I want you guys to feel, is the excitement to be alongside him in your walk, in your life. There's so much joy even in the trials with the Lord.
Yeah.
And it's only with him.
This is a podcast mostly on marriage. And I think that it's been very, very cool to have gone through all the things you and I have gotten to go through, and then have individual growth and individually see where God has shown up in our day-to-day lives and done cool things. And then to be able to have growth together through all of these types of things.
You actually just gave me an idea for the next podcast. I love that, because we talked about this before, and how when I'm going through something and there's times where Dino and I will both kind of switch off. God's doing something in you and you're, really seeking after him, or he's doing something in me. You and I both crave to come together. Like this summer when I took my break and I was reading a bunch and learning so much, and God was showing me so many things, you were like, I want to come alongside you. And it caused you to like want to do the same sort of things. We were talking about it. When you're leading and, kind of pushing down a path, I'm like, ooh, where are we going? What are we doing? So that would be a really cool podcast, because it's so important to stay aligned with one another and have a desire to be at the same, on the same path.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay if we're like this a little bit, but we should be pretty close with each other.
That's always the goal.
We don't want to be like this.
No, we don't want to be, no. And for those who can't see, you don't want to be in front and dragging your spouse.
Totally.
And you don't want to be on a road where you're on a Y, where one's kind of shooting off one direction and the other one's going the other direction.
And you don't want to be on an X where you're crossing each other.
You're such a ham. I think that what we're both trying to get at here. Or a T. You're such a ham.
We're so stupid.
Like the analogy, we killed that analogy. There's all the letters.
I think it's clear now.
No, but what I was trying to get at was making a point, and that be aware of where you and your spouse are at and what's going on. Have a little bit of self-awareness and understand, hey, when you and I are going through all this hard stuff, we would still say, hey, let's take a beat, come back together, talk through what the day looked like. What did you learn? Like, what did I learn from this? And it goes back to, and I've said it before, but there's a statistic that basically says that if you want a successful marriage, you need about 90 minutes of talking a week.
Yeah, it's a desire and like a heart posture to have a desire to want to be alongside.
Yeah.
So I think we could do a whole podcast on that.
Yeah. But like in the last, we can, just to recap this one, but when you and I were going through all the hard things in this last month, or when you were going through the things this summer when you were trying to unpack some stuff, hey, how can you and I don't want to be separated from you. Yeah. If you're going to go and learn some new thing, or you're going to go grow in an area, I want to grow alongside you. Oh, we're going through something really hard together right now with all of the chaos that's around us. Let's be on the same team. Let's make sure that I'm supporting you in what you're going through, and I feel supported in the things that I'm going through. And how can I serve you, even though we're in a scenario where all I do is take care of everyone and other things. But even still, how can I, at the end of my day, put down all the things that I want for me and just prioritize you? Yeah. And just making sure that when you're going through some of these harder times, I just want to make sure, and this is what I'm trying to kind of get out with putting a bow on the whole going through hard times to your spouse podcast episode, is having this perspective of what am I going to learn through this, but also what is my spouse going through and how can I be there to support them and stay on the same page with them so that we're not doing a Y or a T or a Q.
There's some letters that could work, maybe an H, because you could cross that line together.
Don't do this, all right?
You're parallel, but then you cross the line on a capital H. Oh, this was awesome, guys. And I think it's funny that we had done a podcast on trials, going through trials together before all of this had happened. And man, I'm sure I'd love to know what God's thinking when he's like, we're doing that. And he's like, oh, you even know what's going on.
I know. The funny thing is we'll probably go through harder things than this. And we're going to go back on this one and be like, oh, that was light work comparatively.
Okay. Well, you guys be encouraged this week. There's so much goodness walking with him, and finding joy.
Look for the things
trials.
This week.
Yeah.
Look for the things in yourself that you're going through that are hard. Lean into them. Try and get growth out of them. Look for the things in your spouse that they're going through, and look for the ways that you could potentially support and help them. those are two of the big exhortations that I would push on people, because they're the ones that I need to be saying to myself is like, I need to be looking off of me, off of Dino, off of my comfort and the things that I want, my little bubble of, joy that I want for me.
Yeah.
And take care of the other things.
Yep.
Look for the growth, take care of my spouse, take care of the kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll see you guys next week.
All right.